Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about trouble and trending irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
more alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
You're listening to the Media Man Dan podcast. Let's rock!
Rumble, Patreon, Spotify, all of you awesome fellas and ladies. You're awesome. And there's only 2 genders. Suck it.
Actually, there's 3. Lorno.
There's the third one.
There's male, there's female, and then there's mentally ill.
That's the perfect start right there, bro. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's the energy we need for today. I just found a fact check article saying that George Orwell was not the one that actually put this quote up. And this is a very famous quote. During times of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act. And I love that. I don't care who said it. It's fucking right. Don't lie. Don't lie, internet. Stop lying to people. It's upsetting.
Internet's full of liars.
Liars. Yeah. We're going to have fun today, though. It's going to be exactly like last time, except we're not blocked. And we won't have to worry about any interruptions or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So we should be solid. I'm super duper excited because we're actually going to go into the first topic, which is that Tupac versus Biggie analogy. I think that's going to be the most important thing to focus on. That way you can see how much it comes up within the politics and society in general, just because of lies and deceit that constantly are surrounding what we are seeing on a daily basis. By the way, do you like that post that was in my story, or technically Misha Petrov's story?
Yes.
Free Palpatine.
Palpatine. I'm like, never heard of Palpatine before, but it sounds interesting.
Dude, I love that shit. Whenever you see that, like, just call it out instantly. Screenshot it, send it everywhere before they fix it, because that's even funnier. And I really hope that down the line, they're going to actually look back and say, maybe my own virtue signal wasn't needed at that time. I'm really happy I became a meme.
Yep.
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm excited to talk about all that. But anybody that has their own culture and comes with cuisine, you're incredible. I love that every culture has some type of specific food, except for, I think, the Jewish culture. And this is not to slam anybody going through war right now, but Sebastian Maniscalco talked about how, like, they have, like, Sabbath or something like that.
The food they start bringing out, oh, God, terrible, terrible food. Jews have no idea what the hell they're doing in the kitchen. These people have no cuisine. Celery, crackers, jam. I'm like, what is it? We're losing. People are leaving. We need food. After breakfast, they fall apart, the Jews. After a bagel, cream cheese, lox, where are they going? They got nothing. They have nothing. Has anybody ever said to you, we went to this Jewish restaurant last night? The gefilte, amazing. I respect the Jews, but let's just have the Italians cater the Passover meal, all right? Come on.
But I have no problem being honest, and if I happen to be racist for it, I guess it's fine. I still don't understand. This is a very racist thing that I have questions about. Why do we have international competitors on America's Got Talent?
That's a very good question.
I love Putri Ariani. I think she's amazing. I believe she's from Indonesia. Maybe she lives in America. But if you're not from America, how do you end up on that show? Like, can I go on the X Factor in the UK? Like, that's my question. Is like, I'm xenophobic, I guess. Dead silence. I love it, bro. All right. Anyway,
I was just trying to comprehend, and it was like, what about American citizens that
American
are
citizens? Yeah, they
because
should.
that's part of America's Got Talent.
They should only be American, in my opinion. It would make sense that your name is America's Got Talent, so you would think about the talent of America. This is once again going to the literal objectification that we've come up with the people of color versus colored people. It's like, guys,
I
stop
hate that
putting
term.
it back and forth.
I
Yeah,
hate that term so much.
so dangerous, so dangerous. But
Rumble, I love you, and thank you for listening because we don't get censored here, and I have the strike on YouTube.
Suck it, YouTube.
Thank you, Rumble. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rumble. We love you.
We love you, even though I don't know you.
But speaking of Rumble, speaking of everything, I think it's time to get started. So let me get this whole thing on the way. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Media Man Dan podcast. Today, I have a very special guest with me from the Generation Z. I'm so sorry that you have to be part of that. This is Drew over in the horrible state of California.
Washington.
Oh, okay. My bad.
No, you're good. You're good.
Wait,
Take
no,
two.
you're West. Oh, yeah, you're Washington. That's my bad. Either way, I thought you were from Africa because of the thing behind your head.
Oh, no. That's a missionary for Ethiopia thing.
There we go. That's perfect. I love it, dude. And you have faith, obviously, because of the cross behind you and other things. What is the picture? What is that picture?
Oh, that?
Yeah.
That was from our very old church, First Covenant, before it got closed down, before we moved. That's actually a picture for Mother's Day.
That's so awesome.
When we were kids, we did a finger paint thing on Mother's Day because Mother's Day was on a Sunday. So my mother's favorite color, I'm not sure if you could tell, is purple. So what we did is we finger painted a tree and we did little flower legs with our fingers to make purple flowers.
Okay.
So that's what we did.
In kindergarten.
Yeah. This is like when we
some,
were in early elementary, not like
for
now.
a plate or something like that, and I still have that Mother's Day plate. Mothers are worshipped in society, as they should be, because you know they're the ones working the hardest. I will be a feminist there. I will say that women work harder than men when it comes to everything that they have to go through.
Yeah,
but men physically have to deal with a lot more because we get jobs that are intense all the time, and hard workers. Both.
And women are the ones that carry on the life that both of them work together.
Exactly. But men contribute 3 minutes of it, so that's okay.
New record, baby.
3 minutes. All right. So my first topic I want to talk about is the analogy to Tupac and Biggie. Tupac was a rapper back in the 90s, and Biggie, Notorious B.I.G., was a rapper also in the 90s, one of them West Coast, one of them East Coast. Long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, these two dudes were on top of the world. Some of the greatest music you've ever heard for the hip-hop culture of that time, and it really does hold up. Production-wise, amazing. But both of these guys were told repeatedly by people surrounding them that they are shit-talking the other. Even though neither of them had a personal attack until they were told by the people surrounding them that that was like the main thing that we needed to focus on. So I was a baby, basically, when Tupac was like at his peak and unfortunate death. But at the same time, this whole beef started based on the people around them and based on their manager. And so I think politics run in the same way, where the right is consistently told the left is evil, and the left is consistently told the right is evil. And that is because the divide and conquer idea is to make sure that both sides are constantly fighting while the people up top are actually running the show and playing both. And this is the biggest issue of all when it comes to Tupac versus Biggie. Tupac was killed, and I believe Biggie was killed, by the same guy who was running the business, and that was Suge Knight. And I don't care if that gets me canceled because he's in jail and he's, I think, admitted to it or something. But yeah, there was a hit out.
The truth of the murder of Tupac Shakur has been slowly been revealing.
Yep. He's not in, what did they say? He was in Cuba?
Yeah, and apparently he was still alive as a soldier in the Indian Army. I was like,
dude,
no.
I love this shit. I love the conspiracies. Like, if it's actually true, that's incredible. But like, I don't think so.
I feel bad for those, like, all the artists that are like passed away, and when we know they're truly dead, people are like still trying to think they're still alive. I'm like, just let them be. They're at rest. They're finally at peace. Like, just let them be.
That's the truth, man. Also, we should make sure that when anybody is passing away that might have done something in their career that is controversial, we don't hold that as the only thing they ever did. And that is what cancel culture, unfortunately, is focusing on about almost every artist these days and comedian. Is like, oh, they said that one thing one time, and I'm upset because they said that one thing. I'm like,
it's who they are as a person. They said it 10 years ago.
they must mean it. They must mean it. Yeah, exactly. Like James Gunn got canceled from Disney for a little bit because of the tweet from 2012. Like, how does that possibly happen in this modern day where we have so much IQ points and like smart people on microphones? Like, what's his name?
Like us two.
Yeah, yes, us too. But Jordan Peterson is like super high Q. Like, he's one of the most gifted people.
I ran into an episode of him watching. I was like, why haven't I heard about this guy before?
Yeah, he's a genius. What can I say? He is so far from the extremist label because he's literally just talking facts and logic, and people are just too stupid to understand it. And I'm one of them. I will say that I take complete accountability for any of my stupidity. I know it. I see it. I understand it. I'll fix it eventually. I don't know when, but eventually I'll fix it.
Eventually. We've all committed something that we're all going to uphold to.
Exactly. We've all made mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Everybody gets that way. That's a Hannah Montana quote.
Oh, I was going to say, okay, that should be a song. Oh, wait.
The Gen Z guy has no idea. It makes sense to me. You missed out on good television.
I've watched Hannah Montana mainly because of my sisters.
Oh, really? You did? Okay, cool. All right. So, outside of television, outside of all of that, I just wanted to thank you once again for joining me for this conversation and being here and being open and honest about everything, because I believe that we're in a state right now where free speech is absolutely at risk. Everything that we say is being monitored. Everything that I'm saying right now is probably being recorded. The FBI will be at my door. And I don't care, because I think that when it comes down to the end of everything, we're going to be the right people, the ones that speak up, and we don't sit with the silent majority. What do you think, as somebody who has to be so close to the West Coast?
So with everything going on, and especially for free speech that's been upheld, especially within media, it seems like the more that we are becoming awake, like especially your t-shirt that says, the more that people are becoming more open-minded, the more they're going to try to be shut down and keep quiet, because the truth has finally come out. People are now actually listening and upholding information that is finally the truth, and people are still like, no, that doesn't happen, no, you're offending me, all of this, pardon my French, but bullshit. So I've had a bunch of arguments and conversations, because when someone has an opinion, I always ask them questions like, if you have a belief, what is that belief for? If you don't truly understand of what you believe in, sounds like something you need to do more research on, so that you'll be able to answer any questions if anyone were to ask you. And that's another thing over here. It's like, when you say you believe something and someone asks you a question, they're all like stuttering. They don't know what to say because all the media is all doing all the information for them. I'm like, nope, you can't look at your phone. Straight up question right here, right now. What is something you believe in, and why do you believe in that? And they can't answer.
It's sad, but that is the truth. But it's good that you are pressing those people, because they need to be questioned. Everyone needs to be questioned, so that we know that our principles, our values are actually being followed, as opposed to something that sounds cool for a little bit of time and then it'll change the next day. And social media is constantly moving forward and the news is constantly moving forward. So you're never going to be up with anything. And if you get the technology, it's already old. Like, it's crazy. But I could say, like, I saw an episode of the Whatever podcast and this young lady was like, I believe I'm an incel just because I can't find a man that wants to be with me or sleep with me. And he was like, what? Did you just say an incel? He's like, that means involuntarily celibate, meaning that nobody will ever sleep with you and it's nothing you can do about it. Like, he's like, you are a woman, you're partially, like, you are very attractive, like it makes sense that people would have attraction to you. This does not happen for most of the men that are considered incels, so you cannot use that. And she's like, no, I believe it. And she's foreign, so maybe it was just a little bit harder for her to understand, but they made it so simple by pressing her, just like you said, giving her all of these opportunities to say, no, go back on that statement, that doesn't make any sense.
I mean, if you believe that, that's completely fine. I mean, I really wish you to have exactly that, what you're looking for.
I don't think women can be incels because every time
No, I was a fucking incel. I'll tell you that.
All women have instant access to sex, basically.
No.
Wait,
well, you see, you're very biased.
You don't have instant access to commitment from a man, but you do have complete access.
There's no such thing as femcel.
Listen, incel.
You can't be a femcel.
Listen.
That's not true. There
A
are.
woman cannot be a femcel.
Same thing for a girl that said she was a radical feminist. Didn't know how to explain it.
I recall in our notes, you consider yourself a radical feminist.
Oh.
Yeah.
What does that mean to be a radical feminist?
I don't know exactly how to explain this, but
So why do you consider yourself a radical feminist?
Give her a chance. Go ahead.
Because I agree with their values.
What are the values?
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot.
Can
of
you
different
name
ones.
a value that they have?
Well,
Do you believe there's a wage gap? Quote unquote
there
over
is.
here.
Yes, there is a wage gap.
You think that there is a wage gap?
There is a wage gap.
Why do you think that is?
What do you mean? Why do you? I think
I'm like ready to jump.
Yeah,
why
me
do you think
too.
that there's a wage gap? Like, what is the reasoning that you think that there is a wage gap?
Like, why?
What
do you think caused the wage gap? Like, the wage gap that you think that there is between men and women, what do you think the cause of that is?
And also, do you want to tell us what is the wage gap?
Well, it's where women are being paid less.
For what?
Working.
Across the board. So in every single industry, in every single job, you cannot find a single woman who's paid more than a man, for example. Or are you saying on the average?
See, okay, on the wage gap thing, I don't know exactly how it works out and everything.
But you believe it exists.
But, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I used to not believe it exists.
So you used to be based, but then
it still doesn't.
The wokie's daughter.
I'm just gonna say it doesn't.
Oh shit, Nikki.
As a female, there should be that line and like that gap. As a female, you should be working harder. Like you should have that ideal. You should have that ideal image to be like, okay, these guys are like working harder than me. What the fuck am I doing wrong?
Here, let me try to help. So how much is the wage gap?
Isn't it like $3?
What?
What do you mean $3? So a man makes $3 and a woman makes $1, or what do you mean?
It's like, or was it 3%? But because there was a article or something on that.
So a feminist about that, yeah, it's
so just a feminist. There's
equality,
no radical, no nothing.
Nope. And so you give these people that wake up call. Awake but not woke. Merchandise from Awaken with JP, not sponsored. Awesome dude. But I will say these people are in their own head. They have the ego that is consistently boosted because it's been pushed into the main narrative. Like, if you're not posting a black square for BLM, you're not actually with it. If you're not instantly offended that Ukraine is getting attacked by Russia, you're not with it. If you're not instantly upset with Hamas or Israel or whatever, you're just wrong. It's like insanity. And like I said, with the Biggie and Tupac representation, it's because we're surrounded with peer pressure telling us repeatedly, like, this is the right way to think, and you can't think the other way because the other way is evil and wrong. And I think that is an absolutely dangerous thing that is overwhelming in society right now. What are your thoughts on censorship when it comes to like social media, like posts that are misinformation?
Misinformation such as like the BLM, I'm not gonna lie, we've had a conversation like this before where I have been in that era as I was been brainwashed. I never posted a black square when I did support BLM. I never truly understood, so that's why I didn't post it, and that's when I started to transition to become more open-minded. And I realized it's like, wait, for those who like post a black screen, how do people like get like the support, as in like, oh, every post you do, people are gonna get money for it? I'm like, how does that work? And then my old history teacher back when I was in junior high school, this will always hit for everyone, and it will help everyone for life as well. If you click on something, no matter if it's a link, a YouTube video, a website, doesn't matter. If you click on it, somebody is making money, and it's not you.
That is 100% correct.
That is. So I never really set any money. I've never been really that much of a fool to post anything. I have posted like, we need to end racism, like we need to stop doing this. And then I was a Biden support until I realized like, wait, no, this may have been a mistake. So I immediately erased that post like 20 minutes after I posted like, congratulations, Biden, like all happy and stuff like that. So I immediately deleted it. Let's see, what was that? Ukraine and Russia. It's sad that we have war. It is very disappointing. From what I know and what the media has posted, Ukraine is winning. That's what main people are saying. And people are like, why is Russia attacking Ukraine? Well, Ukraine is a trading source. So anything that people want, people get from Ukraine. That's where most of resources people get, just like us from China. Yeah. So they're not part of NATO, but we get our resources from them because they're communists, but we're not.
Yes.
And the fact that Russia is losing to so-called farmers, and people are like, why don't you support Ukraine? It was like, well, also, if we're going to be talking about why not supporting Ukraine, Joe Biden's son literally sends like 5 million over there, and now all of a sudden we're sending $200 billion over there when we're already in debt ourselves.
Oh yeah, major debt. Before even Trump got elected, we were in trillions of dollars owed back to China. So it is ridiculous. All right, continue.
Like Russia and Ukraine, it's sad that we have to go to war. I don't support any of the group. I just wish that we end this nonsense because of land. Everyone has claimed their country. Everyone has their own borders. Everyone has their own rights. Yes, all we can do is really hope and pray that nothing bad will ever happen. But if life were to be taken away, the best is that it will be quick. The least you want is for someone, even a child, a woman, any of them that have been taken a hostage, the least you want is for it to be quick. You don't ever want it to be tortured. As in for Israel and Gaza, I sometimes say I support Israel because the main reason Israel has been a victim for like as long as history has been, such as world wars. People have been continuing to try to make them extinct. And I always like to compare it to like, you ever been that one innocent kid and you've always been bullied your entire, let's say middle school. You've been bullied all through middle school, right? Everyone's picking on you. Everyone's hurting you physically, emotionally, and mentally. And it's like putting you down for years. And then all of a sudden, when you finally had enough of all the shoves and all the nonsense and all the insults, you strike back. But then all of a sudden, you're the bad guy. And it can be taken both sides as well, from Gaza or Israel. But the fact that Israel has been known in history to be trying to be wiped out, to apparently Gaza has owned that land before. No, it's been already in the Bible that was their land alone. They own that land. They claim that land. They earned it because of everything that they have done for it.
The most amazing thing when it comes to the argument, especially when it comes to like the religious argument of the Jews versus Christians and all of that, is we say this like repeatedly, like the Bible has proof of this situation, and the Bible is not believed by the Jewish population, who are the people living there and the people who have lived there much longer than any of us. So it's like most of our perspective is coming from our, of course, first world country. We're a very, very successful, and even though it's going to shit, we have a great economy compared to other people. We have a great system compared to other people. We have a lot of people that are terrorizing that system, but we are still in much better standings than a lot of other countries. So our perspective as Americans always comes to mind, and whenever I hear it from somebody, I'm always like, well, what would you do if you were in that position? Like, how would you think? I would think that everybody that's in Gaza, right? If I was in Gaza, I'd be like, oh my God, Israel is trying to kill me. And if I was in Israel and Gaza was having troops that were sent and like bombing people, killing babies, I'd be like, oh my God, they're trying to kill me. And that once again goes back to the Tupac versus Biggie thing, where it's just like your perspective is going to come from whatever you're surrounded by and whatever makes the most sense by the majority. And the majority is saying specifically right now, it's been like the pro-Hamas stance, but my favorite podcast is completely against that. All American Savage Show, highly recommend. But I would say like in this position that we're in right now, especially like you said, where we're giving money over to Ukraine and have given so much and put ourselves into debt, I believe that it's really none of our business. We can have our own opinions on it, but truly, do we know? We can't possibly feel what they feel, understand where they're coming from, and any virtue signal fucking flag work that we're going to put up on our social media is going to do shit for them. Nothing for them. It's exactly the same thing that they were making fun about with, I think Elon Musk did it. It was like, oh man, ever since they put that flag there, everything's been better. Like that was the Ukraine war. Yeah, it's like all of my issues went away as soon as I saw that one dude in America post a flag. And that's where it comes in. It's like the reality is that we're doing nothing. We're wasting our time. And it's truly, if you actually are an activist and you want to go out there and do things, fantastic. James of the group Big Time Rush is actually overseas in Israel cleaning up damage when he has some off time between tours and stuff like that. I think it's extremely dangerous. I think you should not possibly do that if you have a whole life set up for yourself, because you never know what could happen. But I respect his, his will and his care for the country that he is very part of. And a lot of people are hating him in the comments. And I'm seeing this by a lot of celebrities. If anyone stands with Israel, they're immediately like a terrorist. And I've never seen so much anti-Semitism specifically in this time. Like it doesn't make sense, because we always were told that this was going to happen. The Jews run everything and we're going to get back at the Jews. That was the whole thing, is like the media is controlled by the Jews and everybody's evil that's a Jew. And now it's completely switching sides, where people that had that opinion are now saying, no, they're really not that bad. We shouldn't be, murdering people again. This is just Hitler 2.0 at this point.
I was about to say, it sounds like this sounds very similar to what happened in 1940s.
An evil dictator with the last name H. No. And
he's a Jew himself, but apparently he's German as well. But
do you know my favorite thing about Ukraine versus Russia is that they both had the name Vladimir. That was the craziest thing to me. I was like, do they know each other?
Might be.
Like, I feel like everyone is American, and that's once again coming from my first world lifestyle that I live in. It's very easy for us to instantly go like, oh, they probably play golf on the weekends, even though they're causing war between countries. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're savage and crazy, but I certainly don't trust anything the media tells me, especially on first release, because it's almost impossible to say whether it is or not. And if it's coming straight from the media sources that everybody eventually like just hooks onto, I know 100% they're full of shit. Because if you actually have a real story, that's going to be thrown under the rug. The whole media that we have right now is going to be pushing whatever the main narrative is that's going to get the most clicks, the most support, and the most outrage, because outrage is a great thing for them. That's horrible for everybody else, unless you really hate Olivia Rodrigo. I do.
I only heard one song. I was like, meh, probably not again.
Yeah. it's not anything special. I feel generic when I listen to generic music. I feel generic. That's just how it goes. But I always give somebody the benefit of the doubt. I'll listen to it a whole album if somebody's like, "Hey, check this out," and I'll give them my opinion on it. But back to world issues.
Yeah. For related topic for like the media, I remember a lesson in youth group in church. There was a game called the Whisper Game. I'm not sure if you've heard of it.
So, oh my God, that's my favorite representation of what the media does. Yes.
So it's a perfect representation of it. So for anyone who doesn't know the game, is you have a row of people, let's say 10 people, because that's usually how it goes. You send to one person, they send it to another, so on and so on. So one person is given a quote to say, such as, let's see, "The tree and the bridge is easy to cross, but with a car, you are now the boss." So it's something like that, right? Simple as that. But as it goes through the line, what do you think happens? Words are going to possibly be mixed up. Different sayings are going to be said. And the sentence is going to be almost completely different. Now, if one row has the sentence 100% complete, that tells you that those people are able to listen. They're able to keep the same information. That train has not changed routes. But if the other row said that quote and there's a completely different sentence about everything, then that shows you that those people aren't really listening. They weren't paying attention. They were spreading misinformation. That's kind of how like the media works. Because everyone's been given one topic and then it spreads out everywhere. Millions of sends, millions of posts, and then once you see the final information, you're like, wait, this is nothing like in the beginning. Why is it all mixed up? Because people spread misinformation. They don't send any backup. They don't put any evidence. They don't put any facts. They don't send any proof. People just say it. I can say right now, I identify as a black lesbian. Look at me. What proof? I'm going to steal it from Morgan.
Why can't I identify as a black lesbian?
Well, firstly, I mean, it was.
I'm serious. I'm serious. If I can identify as anything without any need to prove I'm actually what that is, why can't I, on International Women's Day, say I'm Piers Morgan, I'm a black lesbian?
I think taking it to a kind of absurd status.
I think
we're
that's
talking about quite a
with
strong
respect, I think that
change.
you'd already opened the absurdity door by saying it is limitless. You can do what you like. Anyone can say I'm a woman. So I simply ask you, why can't I?
I don't have any proof. I'm just saying it, right? I don't need proof, but I do. Because I'm not black, and I'm not a lesbian. I'm not a female. I am a brown Mexican male.
Yep.
You can't tell I'm a male. Something says about you that I need to stay away from. If you cannot visibly or verbally tell I am a male.
Yes.
That's how.
That is the biggest thing when it comes to the idea of trans like culture, like how we're doing it with like, oh, be more complacent with society. Everything has to be around this small 1% of people, and I'm fine with respecting people. This is my thing, is like I'm very liberal when it comes to having this idea like we should all get along. I think that's perfectly normal. Most of these people are usually normal people, but the ones that we see on the media, the ones that get the spotlight the most, it's as triggering as possible and it's as over exaggerated as possible. And as I told you, I met a guy in a hotel and he's bi and he's telling me, he's like, dude, there are gays and there's fags. And I'm like, you said it, bro. I mean, I can't do anything to undo that. It's true. Like there are completely different perspectives. Like gay people are just dudes or women that just walk around with regular clothes. This is not the ones that are going to pride parades and taking out anal beads and shit. Like that is not the
people
gay
dressing
culture.
up as animal shit, wearing all these fucking sexual toys and stuff like that, especially in front of children. I'm like,
it's the worst.
This is embarrassing because one, I'm fine with people always say like I'm homophobic or I'm transphobic, stuff like that. No, whatever you are, I'm okay with. But if we have to accept the fact of your illusion to reality, I'm not going to follow along with that. Such as if you want to be called a different name, nickname that's not relation to your actual name, I'm probably going to have to get used to it.
Yeah,
but
it takes a little bit of time.
For pronouns and stuff like that, no, I'm going to immediately cut you off. If you're gonna be they, them, z's, her, shit faces, shitwad, clown stuff, whatever the fuck you want to be, do that for you, not for me.
Yeah.
Because if we're gonna go off of your belief, and we have to respect that, you also have to respect other people's belief. Because I'm a Christian, I do not believe in that. God has specifically said about people who are being homosexuals, and I've had a friend, I'm not going to mention his name, during church, and he came out as gay. We were in middle school, about to be high school. I said, okay, if that's truly how you feel, then there's going to be a serious conversation about your love for God, because he has said specifically in the Bible that men should not have like sexual relations to men.
Mm-hmm.
And if he is attracted to guys, he cannot have any sexual orientation with the same sex. He can't like kiss, he can't like obviously do sexual intercourse, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
So
the objective of life is procreation. That's like what God has called most people to do, and that's what the belief is when it comes to the Bible and Christianity in general, is that we need to continue giving more life to the world. That's obviously a very important thing, and it only comes from man and woman. That's the only miracle that's possible besides the scientific petri dish shit.
Yeah. I can get pregnant. How? Bone marrow? That's not how it works.
From a guy.
Yeah. And I'm going to steal this from a guy named Green Machinery on Instagram. It's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve.
Yeah, that's it. There we go. The classic.
Yep. And it's a sexuality, not a personality. Whatever you do in your bedroom, it's you. I do not need to know that. And I'm okay with you being a lesbian. You're gay, you're trans. Okay, that's fine. But I'm not going to play along with your illusion to actual reality. Because no matter who you are, no matter what you are, the world's going to continue moving. The world's going to continue being the same. No one gives a shit of like your illusion. A lot of people are not going to fall into that. And for people who are like, no, you need to, you have to. Said who? Why do I need to? Why do I have to take my right of my belief to uphold yours because that's what you want to believe in? So I can't even have my own opinion. I can't follow my own religious. I can't follow my own belief because apparently these mentally ill people want to continue what they believe in. And I'm not saying that for all people. I'm talking about modern day, as in like that quote, there's a difference between gays and fags. I'm talking about modern day fags.
Yep, that is the thing. It's the culture that created such hatred for gay people. It's the culture that created the idea that when I grew up, when you were probably a baby, we had the word transvestite. That was like the only thing that we knew as trans. Transsexual was not a mainstream thing yet. So now that it is mainstream, and now that it's shoved in our face so much that if you question it, you're hated, that's going to cause more of a problem now, because you are now putting this isolation on a certain group, and they feel like they are now oppressed because you're not following whatever they want. Their feelings get hurt, whatever it is. As an adult, I can say, you need to grow up. Your feelings are going to get hurt. It's perfectly fine. Those awesome people out there that are trans, gay, black, white, everything, I don't give a shit. You're awesome. You're normal. You're a human being. That's all I say. I'm for humanity when it comes to the government stuff. I want the government to be minimized as much as possible. I want them to have little to no control over how we live our lives, how we think, what our actions are, and why we consistently give them so much power to distract us on a daily basis hurts us even more. But when I go to where you were talking about the Bible and talking about the idea of knowing a man's voice, I will say that I have a good rebuttal that would work for the left in this case. There's specific things where it's like, if you're on the phone with somebody and they have a smoker's voice, a woman, right? You're like, hello, sir. They're like, I'm a girl. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like, that happens. Sometimes there is that misunderstanding. But in cases of like meeting a person and saying, oh, that person has a beard, I would assume they're a man. I'm not going to ask them what they identify as. That's just like not going to happen. That does not fit in my mind as something I would instantly do. Be like, oh, they have a beard. I wonder what they are.
Yeah.
What?
No. Like, it's like, first you can't guess it.
Yeah.
You can't assume it. And even if you did get it right, no matter what, they're going to hate you for it.
In spite of everything you've done for them, eventually they will hate you. Why bother?
Spider-Man quote.
Nope.
But anyway, I will say the biggest issue when it comes to the Bible, and this is the atheist perspective, I was listening to a lot of people when it came to 2020. I needed answers to all my questions. I was listening to the left, the right, the extremists on both sides. I wanted to hear what perspectives these people were pushing out into their communities so that I could figure out a way to argue those. So this is one of my favorite things about the Bible is the talking about translation. And my biggest issue, it also works for me because I'm a questioner of faith. I'm a questioner of everything. I believe in God, but I also question anything when it comes to religion because I'm like, well, God didn't have a religion. God is God, you know? It makes sense. You follow God. So Christianity in general had so many translations of the Bible. And like you said before, the telephone game is something that the news constantly plays where it's harder and harder for you to understand what the original message is or what the original words were. So I always ask that question, are we actually correct? Did they actually write exactly what we're reading? Or are we reading like the redone, skipped over, scratched out version? That's my biggest issue when it comes to it. It's like, oh man, I would love to know that. And that would be like a great question at the end of life would be like, is this the true Bible that we followed all of our lives? Is this the correct way? And hilariously, South Park has jokes about like all the people ending up in heaven or hell.
For those of you who were a little confused, you are dead and this is hell. So abandon all hope and yada yada yada. We're now going to start the orientation process, which will last about...
Hey, wait a minute, I shouldn't be here. I was a totally strict and devout Protestant. I thought we went to heaven.
Yes, well, I'm afraid you were wrong.
I was a practicing Jehovah's Witness.
You picked the wrong religion as well.
Well, who was right? Who gets into heaven?
I'm afraid it was the Mormons. Yes, the Mormons were the correct answer.
It was so funny. But I mean, it's humorous satire. I will say that like when it comes to religious standards and when it comes to religious standpoints, when you say things that are considered homophobic, it hurts people's feelings. But I think people should actually listen to that more as opposed to getting offended by it and say, well, what would I think? Have I grown up in this position? Some people have grown up in the church and have had awful experiences, right? We always have to have an open mind to those people that have been abused by random people in church or manipulated by pastors and things like that. So their idea of religion is going to be extremely shaded. They're not going to be happy. They're not going to feel like anything you say, no matter even if it's like the exact words of God going through your mouth, they won't hear it because they've been hurt. And when someone's hurt, the best thing to do is to ask, like, where are you coming from? Let me hear your perspective, as opposed to just judging instantly. Because I can obviously go the transphobic, homophobic route with anybody that I want to. That's just a dick move, and I know it's a dick move, and I'm aware of it. Like I said, I know I make stupid mistakes, and I had plenty when I was in high school, especially when it came to like the silent majority of gay people at that time. There was like this whole day of silence if you support gay people. And I didn't know what the hell that was. So my friend was like, here, put this over your mouth. I was like, okay. I'm like, what is it for? And he's like, it's for gay people. I'm like, oh shit, no. Because at that time, in my mind, I was like, this is the most over exaggerated version of gay. And this is the only gay that I know because I was Catholic. So I was like, okay, well, that's wrong. However, a couple of years later, I'm in that same Catholic church. I've had a little bit more time in school. I guess you could say I got liberalized as well. But I was sitting in my like ministry with my youth minister, and we had a gay person there, and he was like so open and welcoming to this person. And I was just like, that's what Jesus would do. If you actually follow the Bible, it makes sense because Jesus would run up to the leper, even though everyone was afraid and actually outcasted these people because they're so dangerous to society. He would go up and he would say, I love you and I care about you and I'm going to help you. And like, that's where it comes down to. It's not like a gay Reformation kind of like camp or anything like that. But we were told like, he's gay. We all accept that we have our own choices. We have our own beliefs. It does not make him any less human. We don't have anything that's going to be seen in the light of the Lord that's going to be sexualized or anything like that. We don't allow that. We just want you guys to know that he is gay and that this is a thing. And I was like, man, this is like changing my perspective on what I learned my whole childhood. Because I'm like, if we don't go specifically by the book, then we're going to fail. And if we fail, we're sinning. And if we're sinning, we're giving in to the devil, and then we go to hell. That's the biggest thing about any church, is like the basic fear factor, especially the Scientology church. Oh my God, I'll get sued if I talk about them. But like, seriously, they're crazy when it comes to like bashing their own people, because they have all kinds of people taking notes all the time. I was listening to Lisa Remini or something like that from King of Queens. She was talking about it with Joe Rogan. And I think that like our perspective as people of religion, of people that have faith, is beautiful. But I also think that we can come across as judgmental and closed-minded, and that those people that are judging us for that also have a right. I think that everybody has their own opinion, and I really think that the best way is to talk it out, just like we are right now, where you're hearing a perspective you probably wouldn't hear from me, because you're probably thinking, oh, he's the badass jackass online. He's got all these horrible things to say about Taylor Swift and the misogynist words. And I'm like, picked and chosen on purpose. There's picked and chosen, and then there's I slipped out all of these slurs. That's not going to happen with me. No. I specifically strategize when I'm going to use something hateful, because I know exactly the effect that it's going to have on somebody. And I make sure that after all of this time, that when I say the word retard, it is in a derogatory sense, but I am not offending anyone that is literally mentally retarded, because I don't think that's right. And I want to make that clear. It sounds very liberal coming from me, but I want to make it clear that I was a kid that was bullied. I felt exactly what you're talking about from middle school to high school. You have to grow out of it. You have to punch back, because you've been picked on your whole life. I had that moment, and I'm starting to understand how to become a father, how to do the right thing, how to say, okay, I'll swallow my pride in this situation and say this instead. You know, I masked up. Even though I hated masks, I masked up because it made my fiance's family feel better. And I know that that is a conformist thing, and it hurt me inside. And there were so many days I was like literally yelling at myself in the car, like, you're just giving into it. You're giving into the problem. But I did it because I care. And I care about people, and I care about humanity, and I care about us moving forward as opposed to moving backwards. And it seems like, especially in the period that we're talking about right now with Israel and Gaza, we're going into that World War II situation again. We're going into that Hitler's reign. It's best to have a group of people from all sides where you guys can agree on one thing. We need to make shit better. And that's like the most important thing when it comes down to it. I listened to Andy Frisella, great podcast, Real AF. Fantastic perspective on life and just how to successfully succeed. But I think that right now, what we're going through is a wake-up call beyond belief. Like, we are going to have so many red-pilled people at the end of it, because we're going to have so many people that were totally diehard Republican start voting for Trump if he runs as Democrat. We're going to have so many diehard Democrats be like, you know, Trump isn't so bad. I guess I will vote for him. Like, it's going to be wild if Trump runs as Democrat. And like I told you the first time that we were chatting, I hope that he makes a podcast. I hope that he doesn't run, because I don't want to have any more shit go down. We've had enough. We've had enough controversy. We've had enough stupid labels put on people and orange man bad mentality. It's becoming as awful as watching Marvel movies these days. It's just repetitive shit that's not going anywhere, and it's not helping anyone. And so I'm hoping that we will all learn from our mistakes at the end of these next, I don't know, the next election, I guess, is the most important thing, because every time there's an election, something is going on in the fucking world. Always something. I don't know what it is that always causes it at that exact moment. Might be conspiracy, but I'm telling you, man, it was like the pandemic is the only reason that everyone like went super duper anti-Trump. And then January 6th, of course, added to that. The media over exaggerates everything. And so Biden becomes the greatest thing that you can get. And now what are we in? We're in a time where everyone, including the Democrats, are like, we made a mistake. Yep. We still hate Trump, but yeah, no, we're not going this way anymore.
I can't keep defending him any longer when he keeps making himself a fool.
Yep. He keeps making stupid decisions and saying stupid things. And, you know, he's Trump. Trump is Trump. That's what I can say. He's not anybody special to me, personally. I thought he was fantastic when it came to the humor that he brought to the election cycle and debating people and calling people out. I think that's fantastic. I would love to see that more, but also I want people to take the job seriously and get shit done. So when it comes down to it, let's follow policy. Let's focus on that. Personality second.
Yes.
All right. My next topic I want to talk about is 2020. We went over this a little bit on the last time, and it was just so hard to get through all of the words that I wanted to say about it because there was just a timeline of horror. So what I will say is that seeing it from the perspective of somebody that was in the workforce and was considered a what were we called, essential worker, I would say that like my perspective is going to be completely different from someone who was in their house like you were for most of that time. Yeah. So I want to know more from your perspective. When you were watching the media, like you said, you went back and unposted one of your like pro BLM posts or whatever it was. And I want to know what woke you up out of it, because we were asleep, man. Like everyone was in a state of fear. And when you're in a state of fear and panic, you're going to give into whatever source says, I'll help you out. And unfortunately, it was our government. And that's the last person I will ever trust.
So when I was isolated in my own home, I saw one live video of George Floyd getting knee to the neck. I've watched all of it live. I was horrified, basically. And then people were marching, and I was for it because even though I didn't know the case 100%, an officer should not take the life away of another civilian unless he is being under attack. Yes. I don't know a lot about the officer code, but I do know some rights that the officer has. A firearm and anything to badly damage a person is the last resort. Then when I saw justice for George Floyd, people were marching, and I was for it. If he didn't do something that horrific, death shouldn't be the final penalty because an officer had enough. Let alone, it was a hot day. I can literally see the smoke that was happening. I believe it was Australia during that time.
Yeah.
That was crazy. It was over 100 degrees. It was stone cold black. That what I can specifically remember from that video. When he turned, most of his face was kind of burnt, and I was like, he either passed out from exhaustion or passed out from like overheat exposure, because that's usually what happens. But apparently he was dead because of a nerve right here that can block off. And for people who don't know any moves for self-defense, there's usually a nerve in this area that he was kneeling, that if I push right here, it's actually starting to hurt.
Yeah.
So for people who don't know that, that's a good self-defense move. But then what was that other Brennan Taylor? I've heard about that story when they said she was killed innocently. I was like, okay, why was she killed innocently? Why did a whole SWAT of officers raid into her home? And I was like, okay. And I'm reading and listening to a news, and then I didn't fully support that because I did not know. There's the difference between Brennan Taylor and George Floyd is George Floyd, he was actually innocent and has been proven. And that's something I would stand for. A life should not be taken. But for Brennan Taylor, her case was questionable. And that's when I started waking up, because then it started like BLM, we got to support all these names. And I've watched, I'm not sure if you know him, King Batch. He wrote all names across his body, and I was like looking them up, and some of them were questionable cases, but most of them, like their lives were taken away for a belief that they wanted to present. But for Brennan Taylor versus George Floyd, more evidence had popped up that Brennan Taylor's like raid wasn't an accident, because there was another person killed. It was her boyfriend. And there's a bunch of pictures, the same picture that they used for justice for her. If you just expand it a little more, she's holding a firearm, and her boyfriend is a drug addict. He gives weapons to other people. They did more research, so it turns out he was a criminal. So it's like, so maybe there shouldn't be justice because she knew what she was doing, possibly, because she was posting all over the internet that she has a firearm, flexing around with money and drugs. So it turns out that raid wasn't an accident. They were given a warrant. They had the right to search the house, And if shots were fired, by all means, for a person who knows how to use a firearm, that is your right to fire back. And for anybody that knows and owns a firearm, that is their right to. If someone shoots first, you have the right to hold a firearm. If someone has a firearm against you, you have your own firearm with you. You have a right to use it as well.
Yeah.
So for people who are like, they shouldn't have shot them in the first place, there's specific rules for those who don't know about firearms. That could probably be another topic later. But George Floyd and Breonna Taylor was not for justice. They have been warned. Sadly, yes, their life has been taken away, but I do not support for what she has done. She does not deserve justice. For other African American males that have their life been taken away, yes, it's a shame. But then I realized there was a donation. There was like for BLM, and people hashtags, all posts. I was like, okay, this is starting to get out of hand. I've never experienced any racism, and it's saying any colored people has been racism. And I made a post saying, I'm a Mexican male. I have been insulted for not speaking Spanish fluently, or I sound white, and that's okay. It does not define me who I am. It's sad that I have to experience it. It's sad that other people have to experience it, but it's not full on racism. People don't discriminate me. And that's another word that people just use out of the blue. They say it's racism because it's against what? No, if we're going to talk about racism, we need to get the full definition. As a person, I don't know fully, but I like to explain it a lot. Racism is when you have full-on hatred. You like to be segregated. You like to have your own rules. You think you're better than that specific race. That is something that's racist. Like if so for instance, Dan, for your appearance, you're white. For my appearance, I'm kind of brown, but I'm also light skinned from the light.
Hold up, bro. I'm white.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I offend you?
When did this happen? I thought we talked about this before, that I am not going to be misraced on this podcast.
Yeah, see, something like
white
that.
With blue eyes. Yeah, I know, bro.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good.
But if I were to like, oh man, this white man Dan, like so immature, so racist. He represents all white people. I'm gonna stay away from them. So if I'm afraid of every single white person, that's kind of like segregating myself towards it. But I don't. I love everyone. That's how, especially God. God loves everyone for who they are. Yes, he's gonna forgive them. Yes, no matter who you are, he's still gonna love you. There may be times where he has to remove himself from you to see how much faith you have in him, and that's based on your own actions and your own faith. But then I started seeing more posts back to the BLM situation of how they reached over like millions of dollars for him. It's like, so what's the $1 million for? What are you gonna do? They're like, oh, they're gonna defund the police. I'm like, okay, I see. So just because a few officers have committed crimes, you're gonna go after all of them?
The entire police force.
Yeah, it's like that. First of all, that's not possible because we're gonna need them. And I remember having a conversation. Let's just call him Brian. This is when I was still on the left. Me and him have a conversation of why Trump was better for him and why Biden was better for me. And then we kept going back and forth. But I didn't know much information. Just like a lot of other people who support Biden, they just say it. They don't have any information. They don't have anything to back up. I didn't either. I just said I hate the guy because he was racist. But I have no proof.
Yep.
So
that was
my
actually
fault.
the most common thing that they called Trump.
Yeah.
It was xenophobic and racist. Xenophobic because he wanted to lock down the country to save the citizens from a horrible virus going overseas. Mm-hmm. And in that case, I was like, go Trump.
Yeah, pretty much.
I hate lockdowns, but like shit, if you're going to save humanity, that's important. But, obviously it didn't turn out in the greatest perspective.
Nope, because apparently feelings care more about than actual people. So,
yeah.
But
it's more about feelings.
As the words of Ben Shapiro, facts don't care about your feelings.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let me give you my 2 cents when it came to the BLM and all of that, and specifically the George Floyd situation. I know somebody who is a cop up in Minnesota. I'm not going to ask anything of them because I'm not in the force, so I can't possibly know the behind the scenes. But basically, they said that a lot of that speculation when it came to what was happening, especially because they watched the tape. And
let's remember, guys. I just want to give you guys a good wake-up call.
The news never has had somebody dying on it for 8 minutes straight until George Floyd. Just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there.
Suspicious, isn't it? Conspiracies.
Interesting how all of these other people get shot every fucking day in Chicago, and you won't see any of that. But if any of them got accidentally kneeled on up in one specific area at the exact same time where we were kind of opening the country, whoops-a-daisy, that's the important one. Whoops-a-daisy, the guy that none of us know. Personally, I did not see anything except for his family's remarks. I didn't see anyone else. I was like, who is this guy? Yeah. Like, that's where my questions go, because I was in conspiracies and stuff like that, and they're like, we have crisis actors and all of these terrorist attacks and all that. But at the same time, I'm also like, maybe it is just a real thing. This is an actual horrible attack from the police force on another, unfortunately, minority person, and now we're going to have a huge fight between black and white again for no fucking reason. So all I thought, that as soon as the BLM started and everybody was burning shit, I was just like, are you seriously going to side with that? I mean, I understand we've been locked up for a little bit, but like, this is outraged, ridiculous levels that like would never have happened before the pandemic. Like, I never saw the BLM get as violent as they were. And that's where the biggest issue came from, how we reacted to it. And like you said, the black square, you never posted it. I never posted it either. I almost did. I thought about it because I was like, well, I see everybody else posting it, and, you know, I guess it's a moment of silence. I understand it's like a mutual respect thing. Like, you're going to give a moment of silence for somebody that passes away. You're going to put the flag at half-mast kind of thing. So I was like, oh, okay, that's what it is. And then I started seeing the BLM themselves saying, don't use this hashtag. It's overcrowding the other hashtag. And like, what? I was like, wait, what? What do you mean you don't want to support the cause? They're like, don't just put a black square. It's like, you told everyone to put a black. What are you talking about? And it got crazier and crazier, and seeing it firsthand in the hotel business of like all of these people that are like, I've been oppressed and I won't take shit from a white man anymore. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Always bringing in race.
And that's what
so annoying.
Every time it was like, oh, you didn't get us the good room because of the skin type. And my coworker, he was like, they're always going to bring up the skin. Just ignore that shit. Keep getting all the people that we can into the hotel. Make sure everybody's social distancing. That was a stupid thing too. But like, all of this was a mandatory event. And that is the problem. Anytime I see mandatory, I know I don't want to be part of it. Mandatory mask mandates, mandatory vaccine, mandatory this so that you can travel, mandatory this, otherwise you can't see your family for the holidays, mandatory lockdowns, mandatory. I'm like, that's not America. That's not how we ran this country. That's not what the Declaration of Independence stands for. That's not why we have a constitutional right to speak right now. That is absolutely against everything that I originally thought this country was standing for. But I understand the government is not the people. And now I understand that a lot of lies can happen. And a lot of good people will say nice things, and a lot of good people will say bad things. But they're still good people at the end of the day. And that's where the biggest issue comes in, like we were talking about with cancel culture. You say something in the past and now it's held against you for life. I think that Tucker Carlson was a phenomenal voice for the right when it came to the pandemic. I think that he had great outside of the box opinions that weren't allowed on most other stations. I think he was great there. And now I think he's a dumbass. Now I think that he's made stupid mistakes all over Twitter, talking about random shit that doesn't matter, that's not going to help humanity, not going to help our country, not going to do anything. And it's because he's got all the freedom that he didn't have when he was consistently put in front of the camera on Fox. So I believe that we are getting a good taste of how humans really manufacture their thoughts and really push it out into the public in order to be consumed. And then for a period of time it's consumed, but then they'll change their mind halfway through. And now we'll talk about vaccines because I got blocked for talking about this on YouTube. I think it's ridiculous that Fox had a pro-vaccine thing at all. I think that out of all things I would have never heard from Republicans, it's we should all get this injected into our bloodstream, even though we know not what it is. We need to get this in order to survive. And then as soon as Trump loses the election, everyone don't get the vaccine. It's bad. It's evil. It's Joe Biden. And then the opposite side, CNN, MSNBC. oh my God, we can never get vaccinated. It's wrong. Trump created it. Warp speed was by this orange man bad mentality. We can't possibly do it. We're with Fauci, but Trump we can't trust. Trump's out of office. Everyone get vaccinated. It's important. We need to make sure that we're all vaccinated. Otherwise, we're going to die and our grandparents are going to die. I personally feel for anyone that had a loss of a loved one. I don't know if it's COVID, and I can't confirm, and I'm pretty sure your doctor can't either, because we didn't have enough evidence, we didn't have enough time, we didn't have enough experimentation to realize what the fuck was going on. We were talking about everything flu, cold as being COVID. Everything that came up on Google when you said, I have this symptom, you have COVID. That was the same shit they did for cancer. That was the same shit they did for swine flu. That was the same shit they did for all of these things. And so I started saying, I'm going to question this. I'm going to say that I don't trust this side or this side. And I came across comedian JP Spears. I came across comedian and podcaster John Burke, who did John Ross, which was just bashing the media, bashing the narrative as playing the Bob Ross role. So he's doing it in a very polite, light voice way.
Hey there. I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of How to Paint Like a Hypocritical Leader, aka Democrat. And if this is your first time joining us, I'd like to welcome you to pull up a chair and take off that mask, because the damn thing doesn't do anything anyway, but we're going to keep believing it does because the MSN tells us to, and we're sheep living in fear for our lives, and we don't really have the ability to think for ourselves. Bah!
So like that's how he would just bash it, and both of them had great sarcasm. But then I started taking it more seriously when I started seeing that it wasn't getting any better, and it was coming up to the end of 2021 where we finally had a big movie again, and that was Spider-Man No Way Home, and that finally gave somebody the idea to say, all right, guys, we need to be at the theater. Forget about that social distancing. Let's enjoy Spider-Man.
Let's go. Together. We need to be out of the house. We need to get some fresh air.
Yep.
It's unfortunate we're going to have to wear a mask inside a movie theater.
Yeah, no, it was crazy because exactly what the Fox News was talking about. Like everybody in the pandemic was burning buildings and not wearing masks and not social distancing. But they were clear because they were protesting. So it's all right. They can risk the lives of people by their own logic, but we can't because we're crazy, conservative, evil people. And now we are at Spider-Man time and everyone's like, movie? Dude, movie! And then everyone's just messaging everyone else, and they're like, bro, Spider-Man's coming out. Everybody get the tickets. People are literally fist fighting over Spider-Man tickets overseas and shit. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And it was the whole world was waking up to the idea that we don't have to be enslaved anymore. We can be free. We can go to the movie theater and enjoy each other's company again. And nobody in the audience was looking at each other like, oh my God, that person's still wearing a mask. They were watching the fucking screen. They were having a good time enjoying the distraction that we were basically away from for almost 2 years at that point. And it hurt majorly to that exact like experience with like movies. I'm a huge movie fanatic and I followed all of that and I tried to go to the theater as much as I could, even during the pandemic, because I was like, well, I have to see something. It's my routine. I love it. It makes me happy. But yeah, we finally had this distraction. And then you started seeing all of the news start changing. And then Ukraine and Russia. Of course, Ukraine and Russia cause all of this issue that we all have to get involved in. And we can't have this distraction from Spider-Man take over our minds anymore because now we're back in war mode. Now we're back in evil defense and like everyone's evil mode. And we just fell right back into the hole. And I hated watching that. I hated seeing how much like I've seen people that were completely normal, had no political opinion, go strangely far right or strangely far left in that period of time because they're just like, I can't trust anything anymore because we lost all of our privileges. We should have never been together in the theater. We should have been social distancing. Now we're getting people sick and now they're dying again. I'm like, everyone gets sick. Everyone dies. It's part of life. Unfortunately, I know that there is ways that we can prevent it, and there are ways that we think we can prevent it. And there's ways that our ego tells ourselves that we had something to do with this person's death. But I believe in faith. I believe in God. I believe in fate as a human. We're going to have that situation where we lose our life, and it's going to be by the standards that fate allows. That's all that it is. We can't do anything about it. If you want to identify it as COVID or identify it as drowning or identify it as whatever, and the news consistently will promote it to you and you believe it at that point, good for you. but I don't anymore. I don't give a shit. I know that people die. I think it's awful and it's sad for the people left behind, but I also think that death is a great reminder that our lives are more worth it than like ever before, because most of our old ancestors, I can say, back in the time where things were actually oppressed and stuff, like their whole life was work. We are in a beautiful situation with this first world country where we're allowed to live in luxury and we're allowed to speak our minds on podcasts and have free time and hobbies. That wasn't a thing before. So it's like, take advantage of what you have with all of this extra free time. Think about your life and what is making it so much more valuable, as opposed to thinking about the end process and how many people are dying along the way. I know it's awful. And of course, give those people respect. But at the same time, don't blame yourself. Don't blame the person next to you. Don't blame your neighbor for not wearing a mask. It makes literally no sense how that person affected the entire fucking planet. Are you crazy? Because even us, as the Republicans, as the conservatives, as the right, we had masks on. I saw it everywhere. Churches did not allow you to sing. Like, this was an actual thing. And they were talking about they're just crazy and then pulling their mask off and disrespecting their chin diaper. And I'm like, no, they're not. Everyone's fucking scared. We're all in the same thing together. And I don't want to use the we're all in this together shit that the news did, but we were in a position where we could not actually provide proof that we were good people anymore. We were immediately like evil. That is all that we are. Oh, you have an opinion that goes against the narrative. Therefore, you must be trying to kill my grandmother. Psycho. Either way.
There.
I digress. Your turn, my friend.
So, starting off with the vaccines, it's very questionable that people weren't open-minded about it. So this entire new sickness, the disease, if you so call it, that already there's a cure for it, that automatically like, oh, we need to get vaccine, we need to get vaccinated. Oh, but you need to get more than one shot. Why do you need more than one shot? There's a flu shot. I don't have to get 3 shots. And I don't get my flu shots, but
I didn't get it for 10
I rarely do.
years. 10 years. I didn't get a damn thing. I still don't have a damn thing, but that's 10 years. That was since high school. I hadn't gotten anything injected into me besides, like, I don't know, taking blood and whatever. But I was like, this is not normal. This is not okay. And this is the reminder of the microchips that they were talking about in the conspiracy videos that got blocked on YouTube.
Bill Gates and stuff like that.
Yeah, Bill Gates. Oh my God, the best. Oh, there's so many QAnon people I know. They're just like, oh my God, it's coming. The end's coming. I'm like, that's what they say in doomsday Christianity. Don't do this. Don't do this.
Stephen Hawking said the world's going to end in 2012. Look where we are.
Yeah, it's ended a couple of times, as Maddie Montgomery of For Today posted as immediately right when the pandemic was pointed out. Anyway,
so I never gotten the vaccine. I've been asked multiple times if I want to get it by doctors whenever I'm like getting COVID tests and checked up. Not once, never. They have tried. They tried to give me a shot, and I was like, whoa, I didn't say I wanted any shots. He's like, oh, it's just a flu shot. He's like, still, again, that's not what I asked for. And they've been like trying to like persuade me, like, nope, I've told you I'm only just getting a COVID test. I'm not getting any shots. And plus, that flu, whenever I did get flu shots, I know what the flu shots look like. But for this one, it had a yellow line and it had like hazardous on it. I'm like, whoa, what the? I was like, 1, I already told you no. 2, why does it say hazardous?
Yeah.
Hazardous, right. It was so questionable that even doctors are trying to persuade you to take the COVID or to get the COVID vaccine. I was like, nope, just give me a COVID test. The COVID test was so that I was able to travel, so that I can just go see other people. My mother was still in charge of my health insurance and my health care. So thank you, Mama. Proud of you. Thank you. I love you for not letting me get it. Yeah. Then to the Spider-Man movie. I watched it with my dad and I watched it with my brother, my younger brother. It was not overrated. My brother said it was overrated. So the fact that I'm able to get out of the house, yes, we had to wear a mask when we get in, but we're like, we're gonna take it off when we get inside anyways. Just wear it, get it over with, head inside, get our food, done.
God, that was so fucking stupid.
It
it's like, oh, if you want to take a drink, you could take the mask off, but then you have to put it back on right after you finish drinking. It's like
no, we're gonna as soon as
what?
we walked in, we saw people some of them were wearing their masks, and we're like, okay, it doesn't matter. Then when it feels so weird because all you see is just like a patch of blue over everyone. Now, you see everyone's faces, you're like, whoa.
Damn.
So we got our seats. We didn't care of who had their mask on or not.
Yeah.
We didn't have any employees up our asses saying you need to put on your mask or interrupt us during the movie.
Oh, that's cool.
It was good. Enjoyed the movie. It was good in my opinion. And then seeing everyone as soon as we leave, everyone obviously put their mask back on because we're leaving. Yes, it's annoying, but to be honest, for me, I've seen a bunch of videos where I disagree and I agree. I saw one video where there was a man and a lady that was trying to get in a restaurant, and they were just asking her to put on her mask so they could take a seat. And she's always rebelling against it. It's why do I need my mask on if I'm going to take it off when I take a seat? I'm like, yes, that's logistic, but for just simple as that, literally just put it on, walk 2 feet, take it off. You don't have to put it back on until you leave. That's something people disagree with. And I was like, if it's just a short time that you have to wear it, you're not wearing it the entire meal. You're not wearing the entire service. You're not wearing it the entire day. If it's just a few seconds,
Drew, I'm disappointed. I didn't know you were liberal.
Yes, I'm very liberal.
Dude, I can't believe you're so conformist. No, I get where you're coming from. I still think that the ridiculous stuff is that we didn't question the science because they told us not to question the science. As soon as someone tells me not to do something, that's when I do it more. That's enhancing my interest in it. That should, as humans, increase your curiosity. You can't touch the stove. Well, why can't I touch the stove? Oh,
consequences.
Yeah, but you learned on your own. That's the important part of it. And they didn't give us a chance, man. Every time that you put anything out on your story on Instagram, it was flagged for misinformation, blocked with that little eyeball with the cross through it. I was like, what is this?
Especially for fact checkers and stuff like that.
I hated that shit.
I did too.
Especially when I was going through I think I had actual quotes that I was reposting because I was very political on my old Instagram I didn't shut it down. I think I shut it down. They didn't block me. They didn't remove me, but I had to get rid of it because I was like, it's trailing bad memories. But I would post little quotes from other people and it would be misinformation. I was like, what? There was one where it was Biden sniffing a kid and they're like, Biden did not sniff a child. I was like, it's right fucking there.
He did. It was on live television too. Literally grabbed the kid from behind the head and went,
what are you?
That guy's weird. No wonder he doesn't visit children's hospitals.
So creepy. I want him to be in the hospital. All right. Anyway, so you were saying that the Spider-Man situation, you were talking about sitting down, standing up. Wake Up and JP had a hilarious sketch on that.
Okay, restaurants can open again, but there's some highly specific safety guidelines we need to put in place. First off, you have to wear a mask while you're walking to your table, but you don't have to wear a mask while you're seated at your table. Why is that? Because now the virus isn't contagious in the seated position, but you have to put your mask back on to walk to the bathroom because this virus is highly contagious in the walking position. Possibly.
Every single time just to be clear, every single time I have to wear a mask, I'm already fucking annoyed. Especially when I'm going to transition to the school topic during COVID. So, again...
Did you just say transition? Liberal?
No. When I was still in high school, after COVID, during my junior year and my senior year, the fact that people are giving excuses as oh, everyone's still being affected by COVID. It's I understand that, but we need to get back in the moment where we need to teach. If people still don't know information, then obviously, yes, we can blame COVID, but that doesn't blame the fact that we're just skipping on ahead because people didn't want to do online learning.
The system was so bad for schools. I mean, there was so many people that were able to graduate without knowing shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I know one of them.
Yeah, it was hard, especially my older brother too, because he was a senior when I was a freshman, and when he had to graduate, it was like he couldn't even.
Did he have a graduation?
He did. I had a graduation. I got to walk the stage.
Do you remember the drive-by graduation shit that they did?
I saw that, dude.
What
oh
the
my
fuck, bro?
I felt so bad, dude. My brother got his diploma mailed.
Oh my god! Imagine sitting at your house and then people just pull up and drive past and wave at you. I mean, how stupid! What are you in Rapunzel's castle? Like, what in the fuck, bro? That was crazy, crazy time.
During COVID, I used to watch. I still watch this group to this day. It's a YouTube channel called Love Live Serve, and they like to do a lot of stereotypes. A lot of them are funny. Their most famous one, arguably, is blasting inappropriate music in libraries. They've done over 12 episodes of it, and it's amazing. So one of the stereotypes is schools during COVID be like. So those types of stereotypes.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were like graduating. It's like graduation, and then it's like press spacebar to graduate. Press the spacebar. Congrats. All right. Closes the laptop, and they're like, great. They're like wearing their cap and gown and everything. They're like, pretty much. That's pretty much how they do it. They were spot on. So that's enjoyable to watch from them.
Do you watch South Park for one?
Yes.
So do you remember? Did you see the special what they did with the COVID stuff? Where Cartman has like a little picture of himself.
I think we're all here. I see Jimmy and Clyde are on now. Eric, are you there?
Yes, teacher, I'm here. I can't wait to start it.
Oh no, Eric, I think your computer is freezing up again.
Oh no, really? Can you guys hear me? I just said it.
Eric, you'll just have to listen again, okay? Best you can. So let's start today, guys, by going over yesterday's grammar examples. Wendy, can you read the first one?
Dude,
it was also that was so annoying.
That was teaching all of the youth to manipulate teachers. That was literally all that the pandemic did for that generation. Because like, there's the little kids where they're scared, they're listening to whatever the parents say. There's the teenagers that are like getting used to everything, and they're gonna do that. And then there's the high schoolers that are like, oh man, I can get away with so much shit. All I have to do is keep my camera on and put something there.
Yeah, for real. I'm not gonna lie, I've done that a few times. Some classes I like to keep my camera on, some classes I don't, because I'm just sitting in my room, sitting on my bed. And this computer right here, I used to game on it. So whenever I had my school laptop, it would actually be in the corner of this table while my class is like playing, and I'm over here just playing my games. But I also had to be aware because a lot of them is usually be groups.
Yeah.
So when I turn around and see that we're going into groups, and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta like quickly go into the group and stuff like that. And nobody does shit. Like almost nobody. And the fact is there was a rule during the public schools is that you can't fail a student during COVID. The lowest you can get was a C. So you can do absolutely nothing and you deserve an F. But by state regulation and by the public schools, you cannot fail a student.
And I'll tell you the reality of what comes next because it's in the movie Old Dads. Like they showed a woke millennial running the company that Bill Burr's friends were working at, and they're like in their 40s, 50s. And so that's exactly what we're going to have. We're going to have people that didn't have any actual education for an entire year that become our boss. And we're going to have to listen to them. Because they'll trend on social media, that's all that matters these days. You trend,
oh my gosh, TikTok and stuff like that.
Oh,
Charlie D'Amelio and whatever her name is. Like honestly, when I heard that Trump said we need a ban, and when I watched that Joe Rogan episode about like, have you ever read the terms and conditions of TikTok? And people were like, no. And it's like literally scrolling through the app, showing everyone. Literally, that's proof right there. Yeah. Showing the actual app itself and reading the entire terms and conditions and breaking down everything. I was like, good thing I don't download TikTok. And people call me like crazy for not downloading TikTok.
No,
like,
they'll call you crazy for listening to Joe Rogan. What a psychopathic thing.
At least he's honest and like brings out information that you guys people don't want to hear. Like, come on now. Just because he says something you don't agree with does not mean he's a horrible person. And that's also with another topic in school is people ask me for like, did I ever get the vaccine? They're like, well, why didn't you? Some of them were calm. Like some were actually like my friends. They were actually pretty good response. Other people are like, well, you should get it so that you know you're safe. And I most of the time I'm like, who's still wearing a mask? They got the vaccine. They're still wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
This is the whole thing. Remember, the fact is that if everyone's wearing a mask, no one can get sick. That's what they said. Then it was, oh no, but now you can get sick, but you won't die if you're vaccinated and you're wearing a mask. And it's like, okay, but if you're not vaccinated and you don't wear a mask, your chance of living is 98%. What seems stupid about the situation that we're in? Like,
you have a 98% chance of survival if you don't do any of the things. Then I'm gonna fucking do it. The fuck?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, 98%. Man, that's so impossible to live through. How am I gonna get through this? Like, that's where the problem is. It's like they could have come up with a better lie. And I'm telling you, these government pieces of shit, they were lying the whole entire time. This was a game to them. This is puppetry. This is just showing that we have this whole entire situation where if we put people in panic, this is how they react. It's a fucking psychology experiment that we learned about in college. And I'm like, we're just seeing it on the first-hand experience as the fucking guinea pig. It's so ridiculous that anyone can't question that. They're insane and they're trying to kill us. But this is what happened. So they would always do this. They'd be like, oh, Fauci says wear 2 masks because 2 masks will stop the virus. Then it's like, oh, but if you're not vaccinated and you wear 2 masks, you still can die. So you got to get vaccinated, wear the 2 masks. Actually, wear 3 masks now. Fauci said 3 masks. Make sure that you wear 3 masks. It's much better for your health. You can barely fucking breathe, but it's worth it because it's saving lives. And then it's like, if you don't do this, you're a selfish piece of shit. And even South Park had a hilarious joke. It's shellfishness. That was so funny. But I will say, like, it was ridiculous. And the things that they consistently would push out into the media, and all of these people would hook, line, and sinker take in this information as God himself saying it. I'm like, are you stupid? Do you understand what this is? This is a conformity test, and we're failing so incredibly bad right now. We're going to follow everything that they say. If they tell us to walk into the fucking shower, we're going to go in there, and they're going to gas us again. Do you want to go back in the shower? I don't want to go back in the shower. Our ancestors had to deal with shit I wasn't there for. I don't want to see that shit firsthand. Why the fuck would I conform to anything a government tells me to do? Especially in a country where I can say, fuck off. That's the thing about America.
Another, oh my gosh, yeah. When you said double mask, me and my parents said, okay, fuck no. We're just sticking to 1 if we're only going to wear 1.
At most.
I had to go visit the doctors a few times because of my ears. I still have marks of my mask because I had an ear infection on the outside ring. So I was like, and it's like, well, where are you getting it from? I'm like, what the fuck am I wearing right now that you think is causing the problem? You're a doctor.
Dude, doctors during the pandemic, I had my first experience getting the COVID test. I avoided everything I possibly could. I get sick around November almost every year now. And I don't know why that is, because the last 10 years before that, nothing happened. Either way, I had 1 appointment set up with a clinical doctor at like a CVS. I walk in, I'm like, hey, just wanted to let you know, I'm not feeling too great. I don't know what it is. I got the test. It's available, so I'm going to do it. And you had to pay for the test at this time. It wasn't free. So I'm sitting there, and they're telling me that, like, are you vaccinated? I was like, no. They're like, okay. And, like, they seemed like they were already upset with me. I was like, oh, here we go. We're going to have some libtard tell me what I need to do with my body. And this was the literal words. And I hope that they said this correctly to me. As soon as they saw that I tested correctly for COVID, positive for COVID, the little beeping plastic machine that they sent to all these places. Yes, I trust a little plastic machine to tell me what the fuck my body's doing. Either way, they looked at me and they said, well, you're guilty until proven innocent. As if it's my fault I got COVID. That's what they blamed me on. I was like, I even posted it on social media. I was
that's used in a court of law, not for COVID. What's
That's
that?
the
You're
exact opposite of the court of law.
No, and it's not guilt. It's innocent until proven guilty. Exactly. You're not guilty until proven innocent.
I was like, what the fuck, bro? This is some authoritarian bullshit. And I told my fiance, I was screaming at the time because I was like, I fucking hate being at home. I don't want to be around my family. I don't want to be around anything. I want to go back to work. I don't care about this shit. I don't care if I die on the highway. I'm driving my car today. Like, that was my mindset. And as soon as they told me that, I was like, oh, I am not listening to anyone now. I am not listening at all. I see exactly what they're doing. I see through everything. And I believe that everything happens for a reason. I believe in fate, like I said before. So I know that God was giving me a simple and easy way of looking at it. Like, don't trust these people. Don't trust them. And my fiance, she's very smart. She's a teacher. She had to get vaccinated because that's literally the only way that you were able to be around children. They had it as a mandatory thing. She got the vaccine that was not provided by any media, commercials, anything. She looked into every single situation. She said, this is the one I'll get through school, and I won't have to worry about any of this other controversy that's going on with Pfizer or anything like that. So she got something. I don't know what it is, and I don't care. Because honestly, I understand in a capitalistic society, you need to keep your job. You need to have income. I understand that. It sucks, but that's the way it is. I didn't judge her for that. However, everyone around me did. And that was a big problem too, because I then was pushing myself towards the left. Because I was like...
It's unfortunate because I've also had experience such as that where some of my family, like, they had no other choice because when people don't understand, like, this is where it's called, like, where they have to draw the line of where that's what the government, that's what the media wants to do. It wants to keep pushing until it can finally break you. And unfortunately, some of us do have to fall, and because we have limits. All of us humans have limits of how far we can go. And when the government finds out people's weakness, they're going to go for it every time. They're going to go for that limit. They're going to continue to abuse it. They're going to continue doing everything that they can to finally break you. And to hear that for your wife, my condolences. I'm sorry. I know what that's like as a person who's educating rising. I did not have to get the vaccine, thankfully, but it's sad to know that a lot of people had to get it in order to keep their stable income, in order to keep working. Mm-hmm. And honestly, fuck you, government. Fuck you, all the medias. It's a pain. You have caused people to break down on what their belief is because you forced them to kneel down before you. You forced it. And I can say this from the bottom of my heart that any hatred that goes to you, you fucking deserve. And I know they hear that all the time. They don't care because all they care about is money.
Yeah, and this is the people that are in charge of the big pharma. We're not talking about actual people that were, guinea pigs. We all know that we made mistakes. We all know that we conformed. We all know that we had this sense of fear and we just wanted answers. And all of our answers were coming from a specific source, whether it was going to be social media, family, friend, whatever it was telling us to follow this. And that's once again going back to the Tupac and Biggie representation of you have a majority of people telling you one thing, therefore you're going to do that, you're going to believe that. Now here's the truth about the Tupac and Biggie thing. Neither of them ever dissed one another. The whole thing was created by the media, and both of them died because of it. That's exactly what we're headed towards. So for the final minutes of this incredible show, I want to ask, what can we do in order to avoid our society following in the footsteps of Tupac and Biggie, being tricked into hating one another and to the point of death where we never get the true answer until years and years and years go by and no longer does it matter and all the conspiracies say that we're still alive. Like, what can we do now? Oliver Anthony had a great song this year where it was just all about like just all this complaining, but I was like, in the reaction that I did to that, I was like, but what's the answer, bro? I mean, we can complain all we want. What the fuck does that do? We need to have someone stand on the front line and say, I got this down, follow me. And right now I've been following Andy Frisella because I'm like, he gets it. He's understanding. He's completely in the middle of everything. He doesn't like side right or left. He's always thinking outside the box. And I'm like, we need more people that could be like that with big followings that can lead a group of people the right direction. But my that's my opinion. What do you think we should do in society moving forward.
I must say one of the most memorable quotes my mother has said for something that you said. There's always a left and right, and we live in a world and we have to go black or white. You need to start living in gray.
Yep, you need to stop living in red and blue and start living in purple.
Yep, because the main way to live is to live curiously. Because if you have any questions, you have any thoughts, any questionable motives, and if someone is trying to tell you something, there's no shame in asking a question. It's how they react to your questions. If they cannot answer, if they respond aggressively, angry, mad, any of those emotions, if they cannot positively answer a question that you're asking them, that should immediately tell you something. They either don't know the full truth or they cannot tell you the truth, so they try to lie to you. And that's how many people are. So to avoid this, keep an open mind. Does not matter what side you believe on. Always ask questions and make sure to have a calm, positive state. You do not want to approach aggressively. Sometimes I do that whenever I'm having either a debate or a conversation. But once you start maturing, like I'm having one with Dan right here, I've been calm because we know what we're talking about. We do have disagreements somewhat, but that's okay. That's our own opinions.
It's the best because if you agree on everything, nothing's going to go anywhere.
Exactly.
The echo chambers are terrible.
Yep. Everyone has been told this, but everyone doesn't truly understand. If everyone was the same, the world would not be any better. That's why we're all different. And
if everyone's super, no one will be.
No one will be. If everyone was super, no one will be a hero.
Yep.
But to bring it down to one of my old pastors is we're all different for a reason. From the amount of hairs we have in our head to our own mark of our fingers. All of us are different. So whatever you believe, whatever you think, people have similarities, but we're not all going to be the same. So again, back to answering your question, always appear calm, always ask questions, and keep an open mind. But you have to be very careful of how you approach that.
I agree. Sounds like you're a toxic, misogynistic, racist piece of shit for saying something so reasonable. How could you? That sounds stoic and masculine. Disgusting. Disgusting.
You know what? To all those people out there, explain what toxic masculinity is.
Exactly. Explain the definition of a word that's not real.
Yep. If we're going to have toxic masculinity, what about toxic femininity?
There's toxic everything. You're just a toxic person. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what you do. If you're a toxic piece of shit, you're a toxic piece of shit. And it's only a phase. You can actually get better. Eventually, some people do. Then there's people that I know that don't. But I appreciate that 2 cents there. I will also say that, yes, it's very important to keep an open ear, open eyes to everything. Obviously, we want to make sure that one another doesn't get pushed into the same position as the war that's going on in other countries where you have to be one or the other. We don't want to be pushed into a right versus left anymore. We need to figure out what common sense is actually going to lead us in the right direction. However, all of those things that I've said today are probably going to turn a lot of people off. All of those things that you've said today, anything with Christianity, they'll be like, I'm not religious, don't care. That's how it's going to be. So what we need to do is we need to say, what do they think? What are they thinking? Before we even give our perspective, we need to say, where would I have come from if I was in their shoes? Like, what is their personal belief? I can talk to anybody. And that's what this podcast is about, is people with passion. So anybody can talk to me about whatever they're passionate about. And I don't care if that's radical feminism, insane misogyny. If you praise and kiss the feet of Andrew Tate, congratulations, you can still join my podcast. I think you're kind of stupid because he's kind of crazy, but that's all. That's my opinion. I don't like OnlyFans. I don't like
valid.
girls.
I support some Andrew Tate, but you have a dislike. That's fine.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna blast you because of you disagree with something he says and I agree with something. No, we shouldn't even be talking on this podcast. You know what? I'm so offended because like this one person that takes a storm. No, doesn't matter. So I know most people
should
would be like outrageous right now.
Yeah, how dare you disrespect my top G?
I know people would be like out flaming right now. That's the difference between a unmatured angry mindset and a matured calm mindset.
We need to move forward and we need to get our shit together. Look at the gas prices and how much they've changed over time. Finally, it's kind of reasonable, but for that time that we were like really struggling, everyone was struggling. It wasn't just that party. It wasn't just this belief, this ideology, this person wears a mask, this one didn't. It wasn't any of that. We all struggled at the exact same time with the exact same experience. Whether we had our own ideals that pushed ourselves into a different position or not did not matter. We were struggling. And now it's time to remind ourselves that that thing happened and we're never going to let it happen again. Also, I think that it's more important to agree, not to agree in a sense of you change your perspective in order to make them happy, but agree with them saying like, I see where you're coming from, but I have this. I see where you're coming from, but I have this. If we give empathy, if we say that we truly, in genuine, truly understand where they're coming from, we'll say, oh, okay, I would hate me too. I would hate that too. I can't believe you went through something so horrible. Like I said, someone could be abused in the church. It happens all the time. Does that mean the church is bad? Probably not. That means one person's actions did something horrible. Much like the George Floyd case. One person made the huge mistake, accidentally killed somebody. Could have been drugs, could have been whatever we see on the news, could have been the police perspective where nothing actually happened and it was perfectly fine. It doesn't matter. What happened is what we saw is a man struggling and dying. And we saw one man as the main problem. And what did we do? We blamed everybody. We put an umbrella over everyone and we said, you cops are doing this to this man and every black man ever. And I'm like, no, slow your roll. That can't possibly be. There's no possible way. If you look through all of our entire like lifespan of just right now, my 30 years that I've been alive, I cannot be like, oh yeah, everyone was evil. That one specific race, that one specific duty, that one specific job title, that one, only the government is technically evil, but even they have good people. And it's hard to find them because they're crowded with crap all the time, telling them one specific way. So my question to you is, what are you guys going to do in order to say, I don't want to be part of this anymore. I don't want to play into their game. I don't want to be a pawn on their chessboard. I don't want to be a guinea pig in their trap. I don't want to be stuck like we were for the last 4 years with that pandemic. I don't want to ever stay in my house mandatorily. I do not want to stay in my house again. I do not want to be told where I can and can't shop, where I can and can't drive, where I like, especially Australia. Holy shit, their lockdown was crazy. But like that happened. We need to remember it. We need to stop letting ourselves forget it and push on to new things like Ukraine, like Gaza, like whatever they're going to come up with next, like whatever shooting happened last week. I understand those things are important, but the big goal is to fix humanity. And the way that we're going right now, we're going right back the way that we were in World War II. Like literally right now, this is that time where you say, propaganda, go fuck yourself. I'm living life as an American. I'm thinking as an American. And if you disagree with me, suck a dick. I'm moving on because I don't have time for this. You're not helping the cause. You're hurting it. And that is where I come from in this specific episode. I want to make sure that all of you guys get that message clearly. I know it's not as clear because we are big talkers, but we're human, can I say? Drew, thanks again for joining me for this episode. You are an absolute awesome dude, and I'm so glad that we met on the pedo site known as Omegle. It was so great to actually meet a normal person. I did not see his dick. He had not seen mine, so we're good. We're good. That's the God honest truth. We actually found a normal person on a terrible website that is now shut down forever. And God's will took that shit and lightninged it just like George Floyd's statue. Suck a dick, liberals. All right. Thanks again for watching. Hope all of you guys have a great night and stay safe out there. Peace.